Sure, sounds great.
Call to order.
I've got a roll call. Yachty.
Here.
Marsh.
Here.
Bevins.
Here.
Then we have 2 absent tonight.
The approval of the agenda.
I move to approve. Motion. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Public comment? No one. Staff report.
All right, let's give so we met last month, but it's been busy in the month since then. When we last met, Mike had just returned and she's really jumped back into the fray with both feet since her leave. So City Slate stuff is going well. We had a youth skate night at the very beginning of February. It was very cold. We had some turnout. It was a little bit slimmer, but we did make the news for continuing hold that event despite the cold. They were looking for some B-roll, so they came down to record kids skating. Ice fishing happened that next day. We did Ride Around the Lights, which the lights have been up all month of the entire month of February, and we're trying to find a program to go around with that. So this was pedicab rides around the lights, inviting folks out to come out and enjoy those. We did have a 4th event planned for February, the Sip and Stroll, which we postponed a week. I know I ran into Ryan at our rescheduled one. And it was a big success. We had planned for 600 folks, and we got a lot more than 600 people. So the weather was gorgeous. It was nice to have that additional program. So there were definitely folks that while disappointed, stuck around and walked the lights and spent some time just building community that way, which was really nice. So just sort of talking about what we can do to do things like that in the future and how we might be able to accommodate more folks or sort of just play with that a little bit. Still getting ready for some additional events yet this spring. There's a few Easter-themed events coming up in the beginning of April. There's also the Kites for Kids Festival, which we've hosted for a number of years. Will be in mid-April. Meanwhile, Mike is putting together that community activity guide that we hope to send to the printer before spring break, with registration starting for most of that stuff at the very beginning of April. All of the dates for City Slate stuff are at northlibertyiowa.org/cityslate, and we'll be adding all the rest of those summer events here very soon. So Beat the Bitter concluded at the end of February. We estimate about 5,000 participants throughout the course of that. That includes Fire and Ice, that includes the Snuggie Crawl, that includes folks who visited the lights, both during those programs and not, as well as some of those other ancillary events that we had going on. So really happy with that. We'll continue to think about how we might tweak that for next year, including revisiting sort of our weather policy. I'm just sort of thinking about what's the right level for that. We've long gone with what the Iowa City Community School District uses, which is that 30-minute frostbite level, but we just might want to think about what's the right sort of right threshold there for us. I think I mentioned the community activity guide that should come out this month. We also had some conversations about some additional publications that will help sort of fill some of those gaps. The rec department programs in 4-month increments, which means that we published the guide before the registration deadline, which is a month before programs start. So by the time we sort of get that, we're talking like 6 months out, which means, of course, that there's things that don't make the guide that we plan to do. And so just sort of figuring out how to highlight some things in smaller bits. And I think we've got a plan that we want to prototype in the next month here, using, once we have sort of the traditional package that we've done for a long time sort of off our plate, looking at how we can pull some of that stuff that would make sense for a smaller piece. Neighborhood ambassadors meet once a quarter. They met last month. We are going to transition that program to Micah from Jillian. we started the neighborhood ambassadors as when we weren't doing events, and so Jillian who organizes events. She wasn't organizing events, and had some additional capacity there that now that we've returned to a bunch of events, she doesn't have. That plus some of the work that we're doing with the Centennial Park planning. I think it'll be in good hands with Micah, and we're excited to sort of transition that to her. That fits well with her role. I've mentioned Centennial Park a few times. That park, which the city purchased the land in 2010, was named in our centennial year of 2013. We've held Blues and Barbecue there since 2014, and we've always had the master plan has always called for nice big green space with some additional infrastructure. And in the last year, we've worked to really refine that. And we've got some big plans and some big ideas that we're Jillian's spending some time going and talking with potential partners to help us who might be interested in helping us make that a reality. And we're going to host an informational gathering in March to discuss it with some additional local stakeholders. We're still hoping to hear back from the state that they're willing to give us millions of dollars on top of some other grants and other funding opportunities that we're exploring. Summer Luncheon Fund has been going on for a number of years now, and Micah, along with librarian Aaron Silva, is going to take over that program. It has long run out of the Rancho House before that space was completed, and the city has always paid for somebody to help coordinate that program during the summer. So between Micah and Aaron, we're exploring sort of what tweaks we need to make to that program to keep it sustainable, as well as looking at what kind of marketing and outreach do we need to do to make sure we're serving the families that program is intended to serve. It's not means tested by any means, and it is excitedly open for everyone, but we will really want to make sure that we've got the folks that are going to benefit the most using it, and everybody else. So they're looking through working on that currently. The Youth Council continues to meet, and they're looking to meet more often, which is exciting. They'd like to meet a couple times a month while they dig into these projects. We had always envisioned it as once a month, thinking that was already a big ask. I think there's some acknowledgement that teenagers might need a little bit more support and a little bit more focus to sort of advance these projects, and that maybe not as much work would occur outside of the meetings as we expected. But it's great that they work really well if there's time set aside for them to get together and work through these problems. And it's really great to hear everybody sort of talk through these issues and sort of brainstorm together and collaborate together. Really trying to make sure that this is youth led and supported by staff, and not staff led with sort of This isn't camp where Micah and Nick play camp counselor, but to make sure that they really are leading and have a voice in this with our support. So that's really exciting. The Connected to Tomorrow comprehensive plan was just adopted at the very end of February. We spent more than a year getting public input and feedback through focus groups and surveys and online maps and open houses and design charrettes and a bunch of different ways. We worked with RDG out of Des Moines to really do the work, and it was led in-house by our local by our planning director, but we helped with some of that public engagement. So it's adopted. There's some really exciting stuff in there. It's more than just this is where houses go and this is where businesses go. There's a lot about multimodal transport in there. There's a lot about equity. There's a lot about park space. There's a lot about business development and things like that. So I would encourage you to look at that if you have an opportunity. It has now replaced our old comp plan on our planning page, but you can also just get to it at northlibertyiowa.org/connected-to-tomorrow, and they've got copies there. We're talking a lot about stormwater in the late winter here. People get ready to do landscaping projects. So we're trying to talk about the value of stormwater, the importance of stormwater, and how it helps prevent property damage and local flooding, and is good for the environment to manage it correctly and properly. And talking about those grants that the city offers to help property owners address some of those things and take on some of those projects. We'll talk a lot about stormwater here in the spring, just so that people are aware of those of all of those things. Those I think are the big highlights for the month. I'm happy to answer any questions or offer any other comment that folks might like.
I think you covered a whole lot. No, I guess the only other thing I was going to say was that it was really neat to see everybody get together at the sip and stroll, and very well put together. And I heard a lot of really positive feedback too. So
Thank you.
Even though I missed a cup.
Even though you missed a cup, I'm sorry for that.
So do we have any old business? Any new business? We have a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.